Hey, all, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mike Muldoon podcast. You'll have to bear with me. I've been sick for almost 2 weeks now, some sort of viral infection. So just bear with me as I try to get through this. And it's interesting because I really want to touch base real quick about our episode last week where I talked about the importance of building resilience. It's funny because as that podcast was being released, I'd been sick, but on that same Friday that my podcast released, that afternoon, I got a call from my mother and she says, Michael, I need you to come to the house. Your dad had fallen. So I said, oh, okay. My dad's 82 years old. He's got cancer and he's actually fallen once or twice before, but never bad. So I show up there and he's on the floor and he's in a lot of pain. And I said, Mom, I can't pick that up. I think he broke his hip. So we get the ambulance. We get down to pick him up. We get him to the hospital. We get him all checked in. And they said, yep, broke his hip. They're going to have to do surgery. So the next day he's getting set for surgery and my mother's there. My mother walks outside to go to her car, walking back in. Mother falls over, smacks, hits her eye, hits her face. So now my mother gets checked into the emergency room at the hospital. So by the time I showed up at the hospital, they said, who are you here to see? And I just basically said, I will take whichever one is available at this point because they're both here. I saw my mom. She was in good spirits though. Mom's real tough. She was kind of laughing about it. She just said she kind of tripped over a piece of grass and something that was there and she's fine. But she had to get stitches across her head. She had to get stitches in her hand. She had about 9 stitches. And all the while the doctor is stitching her up, she's making jokes. And even I've joked around with her. She asked me how she looked. And I said she ain't winning a beauty contest anytime soon. But anyway, she was doing fine. But it's just been a crazy. And I'm still sick. This is a week later. I'm still battling through this viral infection. They've got me on all these kind of drugs and stuff. And every day I think I'm getting better. And then of course now dealing with my parents and my own challenges. I resigned from my job a few months ago and I've overestimated the job market. So kind of, still out there looking for stuff and handling my own family and everything else I got going on. So it's been crazy. Ultimately, what I'm saying here is, if I didn't spend time in my life being able to build resilience with everything going on in my life right now, I'd probably be losing my shit, as I've said before. So it's just really important because when you have good resilience, you can still make smart decisions. You can think clearly. And as I'm processing through everything, I'm just, not freaking out, just trying to take it all as it comes and just trying to figure out the best ways to go about it all. So I just wanted to again touch on last week's episode on building resilience and how it's really worked out for me because it's been crazy. So, and again, sorry about that all. So today I'm going to be really quick, but I just want to talk about your thoughts. I want to talk about fact checking your thoughts, especially when you're in a heightened emotional state, right? See, our minds are remarkably creative and constantly spinning narratives, weaving stories, especially when we're in these highly emotional situations. And while this capacity for imagination, can be a source of inspiration and creativity for us all, it can also lead us down a terrible path when it comes to, our insecurities and our fears. And we got to be careful about this, especially, and also how it interferes with our worries. So today I just want to discuss the importance of fact checking your thoughts before accepting them, particularly in moments when emotions are running high and you find yourself going down the rabbit hole. Look, we have all found ourselves, in with our thoughts spinning out of control, almost on their own, where we feel like we have no control from any of this. We're just going down that rabbit hole, which is obviously a term often used to, is used when we talk about getting interested in something to the point of distraction. But in this case, this distraction, it's not one of bliss, but of mind chaos. You see, I've often mentioned on the podcast in the past that our thoughts are powerful. We hear this, right? They shape our perceptions, our influences, our decisions, and ultimately define our reality. Again, that's why you often hear people say, if you want to change your life, change your thoughts, or your thoughts create your reality. However, thoughts are not always grounded in reality. They can be influenced, again, by our insecurities, our fears, our worries, leading us to create scenarios in our minds that may not align with the truth. Now, as I've spoken in the past when discussing tears, and I'm not talking about the ones that fall down your cheeks, what I'm talking about is your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your results. When I was talking about all that stuff, they're all deeply intertwined. So obviously your emotions and your thoughts are deeply intertwined, right? So when you experience strong emotions, your thoughts can become distorted, magnifying these insecurities and fears. In such moments where your mind cannot, starts concocting scenarios that reinforce these negative feelings, creating like a vicious cycle of distress. So let's look at it this way. Like, for example, let's just say you sent out an important email, right? I've been sending out a lot of emails lately. Yeah. And the recipient hasn't responded. So your mind might start crafting stories of being rejected, right? Of rejection or incompetence or even conflict. It'll start amplifying these insecurities and fears. You have these scenarios, however, just may be far from reality, right? Or let's just say you make a call or you text someone and they don't get back to you, right? A couple of days ago, so your mind starts crafting stories of rejection, incompetence. They don't like you, starts amplifying your insecurities and fears that, they've got a vendetta against you, or, they're just deliberately ignoring you, or they don't want you in their life, or whatever it is. So the thing is, you got to stop that. And in order to stop this, you got to prevent these emotional scenarios from taking over. So it's very important, and it's very crucial to fact check your thoughts. So when you notice strong emotions arising, take a step back, give yourself a moment to breathe and gain perspective. See, the first thing you always want to do, sorry guys, I'm trying to get through this, is you want to recognize. And when you recognize, this thoughts and how they're going out of control, it's time to start, it's time to stop creating this, fictional narrative. You got to put the brakes on it, right? And now you got to start challenging the thoughts that are causing you distress. Ask yourself whether they are based on concrete evidence. Is there anything real evidence to support why I should be feeling this way? Or if they're just, products of your insecurities and fears, like why am I feeling this way? Why? Because I just sent an email, like, what is rising in me that makes me feel like this could be anything more than they just haven't gotten to it yet, right? More often than not, a lot of this worrying just does come from your own insecurities and fears. And the thing is, if you're somebody who does this a lot, like every day, every time you send a message or an email or talk to somebody or do something, and you're constantly going through this cycle of worry because you haven't gotten the response you were expecting, you might want to get some sort of external perspective on this. You might want to, get some help on sort of breaking this negative cycle of thoughts. Talk to a friend, a family member. Always choose wisely, or a therapist, or even a coach, somebody who can help provide you with a more objective viewpoint. See, it's also in these situations, and I've talked about this before in my podcast, where, this is where really having, cultivating strong emotional intelligence is really important, because one of the first keys of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. It's the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions, including their triggers and impact on your thoughts and on your behaviors. So when you cultivate, strong emotional intelligence, it's so valuable. It's such a valuable tool for navigating these emotional scenarios that you'd be running through when all of a sudden things seem to be like, spinning you out of control about, why didn't they call me back? Why didn't they invite me to do this? Why don't, whatever it is, right? So you'd be able to recognize and manage your emotions more effectively. And by understanding your emotional triggers and how they influence your thoughts, you would regain control over your reactions and thought processes when these, false narratives start to spin in your head. Again, the truth is your thoughts have the power to shape your reality. Your thoughts have the power to, shape your reality and to challenge you in a way to either make your life better or worse. And in this case, in these sort of heightened emotions, a lot of times it's doing it for the worse. It's bringing about your insecurities and your fears and your worries. And again, it's creating these, these scenarios that aren't necessarily true. You know, you might find yourself even getting so angry that you're now fully convinced that the story you've concocted in your mind is now fact. You might even act on them. You might text that person, why are you ignoring me? Why aren't you getting back to me? You might send a follow email to somebody saying, trying to explain yourself or remarking on things that you think that they might be thinking and try to convince them otherwise, when realistically they're not thinking about anything at all. Neither party wasn't ignoring you. They maybe just haven't even gotten any back to your text or your email. They haven't had any time to respond. So again, if you start acting on these, this is a real challenge here. So again, it's so important that you fact check your thoughts before accepting them as reality. Take a pause, question these assumptions, right? And if you have to, seek some external input from people, reach out, hey man, I kind of did this. What do you think this way? They might say to you, well, did you do this? Was there this? Was there any indication of this? And you might find out, no, well, then you got nothing to worry about, right? But most importantly, too, just keep cultivating emotional intelligence. Again, like this first one, man, is self-awareness. See, you can break free from the grip of these emotional scenarios and gain a clearer, more balanced perspective on the situations you face. Okay, but remember, your thoughts are powerful, but they don't always tell the whole truth. It's up to you to play detective in your life and with your thoughts. So don't let these scenarios run away and ruin potential opportunities for you because you can't control them. More often than not, it's just you creating a situation in your head or in your mind that really isn't there. And because we've created it, we start to believe it's fact, then we act on it, and then it causes a problem. Take it back in those early relationships you used to have. That person doesn't call me back, or that person didn't do this. And then you start calling them more and texting them more and reaching out more and this and that. You create a scenario that they're out in the world doing something else, when realistically, maybe they didn't even see your message. So really start questioning your thoughts, right? Are these things real? Are they based or rooted in fact anywhere? So, all right, that's all I really got for you today. And thanks for sticking around with me. I can't believe I actually got through this without a coughing fit, too much of one. And as always, check back weekly. I'm now on YouTube as well as on the Apple and Spotify podcast, wherever you listen for your podcast. Check out my website, MikeMuldoonLC.com. Anybody needs some coaching, please send them there. Sample sessions are always free. I don't say free. What happens with a sample session is you just want to make sure that we have something we can offer. Like I'm going to bring value to the challenge that they might be facing. And if we're not, then there's really no sense in working together. So, but if you know somebody who might need some help right now, send them there. Let's chat. Let's talk. Also, Instagram, Facebook, I'm there trying to keep up. But other than that, people, I appreciate you staying with me. I'm sorry you got the frog voice right now. I'm trying to get better, man. It's been a long time, and I'm dealing with everything else because I can't just stop, right? I can't just sit down in bed for 2 weeks. I got kids, family, my parents, everything else going on. So I'm trying to do my best, take care of myself. But, it's funny. My doctor said the other day, they said, hey, do you know your blood pressure is 147/92? And I was like, really? As if it wasn't a shock to me. I said, well, we'll get that in line, but a lot going on. Listen, as always, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I got nothing but love for you.